All right, welcome to the AJA Sports Show. I am Ace. I'm joined here today by my two best of friends and sports trash talkers, Jay and A. We'll go over some introductions right now, but this is our first recorded show, and we're happy to be here to serve some fantasy content, whether it's bullshit, analysis, stats, or opinions. We're going to do a little bit of everything. All right, so let's get some introductions out in the way. So I am Ace, although I don't see my banner underneath my name. Let me just look at that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Ba-da-bum-bum-bum. Oh, maybe they don't show up.
Oh, unless you're individualized.
Or maybe with the banners, they don't show up. There we go.
Oh,
Aha! We figured it out,
There it
YouTube.
is.
that's it. That's it. Yep.
Okay, well, I'm Ace. I am a Buffalo Bills fan, apparently, because I'm wearing the hat today. I am a Marvel fanatic, as you can see by Thanos' unsnapped fingers behind me. And I am the long lost brother of these two gentlemen in this room as well.
No,
And
baby.
let's shoot it over to Jay just to talk about himself for a quick sec.
I mean, you guys know I'm pretty good at that, but I'm Jay, big football fan. I'd say football's my favorite sport. Had the great opportunity to play some college football, play a lot of DFS. So I'll be a guy that really focuses on DFS a lot of the times. Those are going to be fun days when we do that. Big Chiefs fan, big Laker fan, big Dodger fan. No biases here. No biases except our huge three. So, we'll be a little biased. We say no bias, but it's bias. So, that's pretty much it.
I am the aforementioned Jay's brother, Andrew. He's the big talker. You'll come to learn that. All you guys will. I am too a Lakers, Chiefs, and Dodgers fan. I will attempt to keep my bias out of it more than Johnny will. Not try to keep. So I like drawing. I love Marvel, just like Ace. Excited for WandaVision coming up.
Ooh.
Can't wait to see what else we get going in this show here, and glad to be here with you guys.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We're going to start off today's show going over some news and notes from the past couple of days up until this past week. If you care to join us through, we'll talk about our fantasy sleepers and duds for next season. It's a little early, but it's not too early to think about who wronged you and who righted you last year. And if you want to pick those fabulous NFL stars as one of your sleepers or duds, as you can see the ticker on the bottom of the screen, we are the AJA Sports Show. So if you want to follow us on our three platforms right there, we would love for you guys to come along for the slow and bumpy ride. So
We wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Nope.
without further ado, news and notes. So I think the big story this week was Tiger Woods, although it just happened. A lot of mixed emotions there. He is the one of the GOATs in all of the PGA Tour and golf history. So it's a little interesting to see people so divided on him. But thus is the case when you are a star. He is going to probably play again if he wants it to. He wants to. What are you guys' thoughts about Tiger?
Just feel for the guy. Not really sure. There's a couple reports out there about what he may have been doing or what was occurring beforehand. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like it's one of those situations where he's like under the influence of something. So hopefully he's going to be able to figure out and sort out whatever's going on in his personal life. But I'm a Tiger fan. We just had this talk actually on Sunday when you were here. We talked about it, like about him being a part of like the top 5 GOATs of all sports. So I think
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, he is a black, multi multicultural player who is going to live on one spectrum or the other, and he's done so in his like career and as a golfer, as a human. So we've all been on that spectrum of life, and yeah, I mean ultimately we feel for the guy, and hopefully he gets back to playing, you know, championship winning golf because we do root for Tiger, and we he does make the golf world a little bit more special. You have anything to add on that, Jay?
Yeah, actually, that was. I mean, I might touch on it a little bit later too, but that was actually one of my worst things from the sports weekend. Although
Oh,
it was
we'll let you get to
yesterday.
it. We'll let you talk
Yeah,
about it a little later, and then
absolutely. Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah. So
open
we'll get
up.
on that.
You can open up to us about that a little bit later.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean we're still knee deep in this. Well, it might be neck deep at this point. We're neck deep into this coronavirus. Unfortunately, it is the cause of 500,000 deaths in this country. We ask you guys to just please be safe out there and take care of each other. Just another prominent athlete, Jose Abreu today. Was tested positive. So again, it's going to happen, but training camp's just starting to. So we're probably going to be getting a long list of MLB players falling into the COVID list. We had that last, MLB season two, which the Dodgers won. If anybody of you've forgotten, we're
We
all
did
Dodgers
not.
fans.
We did
So,
not hear. Yep.
so yeah, we did see a little bit of craziness happen there. MLB is trying to get as full of a season as possible, so they will ask their players to be as safe as possible. But these little mistakes happen all the time. Devin Booker was snubbed from the All-Star game, but it looks like he's going to be replacing
Yeah.
Anthony Davis from the Los Angeles Lakers. So
Absolutely.
good on him for being a reserve to the reserves. But you have any thoughts about that, Jay?
So, all right. So, I guess my question is because AD was a forward, did they not need to replace him with another forward? Or are we just at the point in the All Star game where it's just we're going to give the fans what they want? Because that's kind of what it feels like now. And I'm totally okay with it, to be honest. I'm all with it. There are people who are going to be snubbed all the time. Like, we listened
Absolutely.
to the broadcast today and they're talking about Mike Conley being snubbed. Mike Conley was not snubbed. Okay, Devin Booker was snubbed out of all the All Stars guards, especially in the West. Mike Conley is not an All Star snub. I know that's not on topic, but just had to get that off my chest because Mark Jackson was all over it today, and I'm not having it. So,
Yeah, I could see Mike Conley kind of being like seesawing between like a six player to starter
yeah,
to a bench player. You can kind of see him in multiple roles there. So I guess in that way, like over his career, he's kind of been a little bit divided, and he's been in the league for a little bit longer. So his expectations are not as high as they probably once were when,
right,
he was maybe Devin Booker's age.
right.
Ultimately, it's a popularity contest, so I can't get too mad about the NBA All Star game. If you wanted Devin Booker to be there, then more people should have voted for him. I mean, Phoenix, Arizona doesn't have the most numbers in the state, but ultimately, it's a Devin Booker issue. He possibly needs more fans across out there. So just, Devin Booker, you need to be a thirst trap. You need to get as many fans to vote for you as
I mean, he's
possible.
he's hooking
I
up with
mean,
Kardashians and stuff, man. The
Right,
guy's putting
he's
in
with
the
Kendall
work.
Jenner.
You know,
I mean,
he's
what more
putting
do
in
you
the
need? You know,
maybe that's why he's not as.
will backfire.
we saw what
there.
happened to Kanye, so maybe.
I think I
Jesus.
think our boy Matt Kemp, maybe a dozen years ago,
In
was
there.
dating Rihanna, and
Yeah.
fans were like "WTF," but also "OMG," So
Yeah.
So I guess in my other, since we're already talking about the All Star game, I know we're trying to not dive into this stuff too deep, just kind of get our thoughts. What do we think about the All Star game going on in general? Just my quick little take. The NBA has been so focused on trying to get the season in, and I totally understand that. So I mean, I know again an All Star game is important. It's something that we do every year, but if that's really the case, why are we going to gather people from different teams together in one city just to, I mean, I just don't see, I guess the reward in that is, having the game, but is that at a detriment to maybe causing some intermixing with COVID going on and all that?
well, let's go around the room and
Yep.
answer that. Andrew, how about you?
I think in this kind of situation, just like a simple selection would have sufficed. I
Right.
understand like there's a lot of motivations behind, like endorsements and everything and TV deals, but and obviously the players have advocated for just wanting to not attend the game for obvious reasons, but the NBA must feel confident enough that their protocols that they're going to have in place are going to be good enough. And we saw it with the bubble. And, there's going to be COVID. We've seen already that with baseball as well. We talked about a second ago, like COVID's going to be around and it's going to be a problem. We're going to have to work around it. So I guess that's just what the NBA is anticipating and going for.
Mhm.
But I'm kind of agreeing with the players here. I think a simple selection would have sufficed, and maybe like some, you did it from several different locations. You had the tournaments maybe, and 3-point contest can be done. You send officials to different spots and such. But
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of look at it in two ways. Like I love the optimism of like having it back to normal, but then I also look at the just straight logical reason is if should we do extracurriculars right now? It's a yes or no question. It's to that is it is does get like kind of in the gray area when you're talking about do we really need sports right now? Kind of like harkens back to that. I do believe like sports is good for the nation because I do think mental health of and emotional health of just fans across the world just being able to tune in and watch their favorite teams play is a big part of that mental and emotional health. But I mean. We still get spoiled with NBA games, right? They're playing a 72 game season, so I mean, I think we can skip the illustrious NBA All Star game for one season and just be realistic and be creative. I mean, if not for the COVID-19 virus happening, like we can't push ourselves to become better if we don't like look at like, oh, okay, well, if this doesn't work, what's our backup plan? So that's kind of my thing. Like I'm kind of with you, Andrew. Again, it's an easy answer to give. Like I'm against the coronavirus, so I'm against like extra things. But I would have liked them to just think a little bit more outside the box, and then maybe you get more NBA fans because of that. Maybe some of your fans are a little upset, but maybe some of them are also even more empowered to think like, oh, okay, like Adam Silver is woke. He cares
Yeah.
about not just making money, which this is a business, but also how to take care of his players, how to take care of the league, and then how to like set a good example for everyone out there.
I mean, there were so many people there were so many like prominent players that were against it, which is just it's you want to talk about having a bad look. That's a bad look. Like LeBron James came out, and he was one of the bigger proponents saying, "I don't know why we're
Absolutely.
doing this." He's the captain, like
Yeah.
for the West. So I mean, again, I think I've given my piece enough. I just don't think it's really necessary.
Yeah, when the king talks, everybody listens, right? I mean, it's it's one of those.
Andrew knows how much I love you. I love me some LeBron, baby. So yeah, I listen when I do talk. So
So I just got into Game of Thrones like maybe a month ago, and I'm on like season 4 right now. No spoilers in the comments below.
from 10
So-
years.
We're 4 seasons in, and I've already got I think 4 different kings holding the Iron Throne. So I'm sorry if that's a spoiler for anybody that hasn't watched the show, but I mean I watched it like 7 years late, so you have no excuse out there. But to me, like the king speaks and everybody should listen, but damn, the Game of Thrones shows you like there's so much politics going off around here and there. I know obviously we like to. It's always easy to compare like you know, a like made up fantasy to real life, but that's what we like do. We relate, things that happen to us, or things we see or shows we like to our real life. And yeah, I mean, Cersei, man. But anyways, yeah, I just don't know if this is all in the player's best interest, which is what it should come down to. Because if you are a players' league, which they've said they are, they should take care of the players.
Exactly.
Agreed.
We were going to talk a little bit more in our news and notes section. I had a little news blurb about Tom Brady, but we'll just skip that.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I think I think we're all okay with
Brady.
that. All right, we're gonna pivot to the next part of our show. That was our news and notes. As we said at the top of the top of the broadcast. We're going to go over our fantasy sleepers and duds. I just have this list down to 1 and 1 for me. Again, it's up to you guys how in depth and how obnoxious or realistic you want to be, and you can add in who you want. But I'll go first. Now, my fantasy sleeper this year was someone that I thought, you know, I have no idea who this player is. Last season, I didn't know who he was. He was a rookie last season. I kind of just started like doing some research here and there, and then I was like, oh, this kid, looks like he can play, and he did really well. He played in like kind of a fractured offense. He was kind of up and down a little bit to begin the season, but like he had some games, and then later on in the season he dealt with an injury. He is the Washington running back Antonio Gibson. Last season he finished as the 13th running back in terms of fantasy points in the league. I expect an easy top 10 performance from him, and I could tell you he's going to be top 5. He could going to be number 7, but ultimately, to me, I think he is going to crack the top 10. I think he is going to be a enormous fantasy asset. I don't think you're going to need to draft him as high as you're going to have to draft Zeke and McCaffrey. Obviously, those guys are the names that pull the most draw, usually in the first round or so. But fantasy running backs. I know there's the whole strategy out there when you're playing fantasy, or even just when we're talking about DFS. Like, do you fade? Do you go 0 running backs on your team? But fantasy running backs, like, are driving the last like 5 years the leagues. Like, I think it's been maybe since like 2015 where no fantasy running back has who's scored like the top score was less than 300 points. So I can't remember who it was that year. It might have been Todd Gurley, if I remember correctly. But fantasy running backs have been putting up as good of numbers, if not better, than fantasy wide receivers. And to me, there's only 1 or 2 running backs that can be on a field at any given time. There's 3 to 4 wide receivers. So I like to invest in strong running backs, and I feel like if you play Antonio Gibson in most games this season, whether it's on DFS or in your fantasy lineup, he plays behind a really solid offensive line who kind of surprised people last year. I think they're not projected to do well, but I think the interior line are your interior line, including the center, all finished in like the top 10 of their like PFF grades last year. So some pretty good numbers there. I don't think he's going to take a step back. I think he's only going to get better. We saw Alex Smith be the quarterback of choice when need be, but I feel like they will go into this season a little bit more connected there and not just jumping around and doing, trying to consider playing Dwayne Stripper Lover Haskins. And hey, no fault to that, but be a good role model or just don't get caught.
Right.
I think he's going to take a step forward. I think the McKissick duo there also makes sense to think that, maybe he won't reach as high, and that is true. Like, I think McKissick does hold him back a little bit. Antonio Gibson can catch the ball too. He had some good receiving numbers last year, but I feel like it's one of those scenarios where the sum of the sum of the parts make a better whole, and I do feel like they do make each other better. So let's go to Andrew. Andrew, who's your fantasy sleeper next season?
Love Antonio Gibson, so I'm definitely gonna be looking for him. Just wanted to say, and they won't have to worry about Dwayne Haskins because he's in Pittsburgh. Nobody wants that in Washington.
So is Roethlisberger still.
Yeah, pick your poison there, guys. I'm actually gonna go for a running back as well. I don't think that's gonna come as a surprise to many people. This guy was also a rookie last year. He was on my team. And he flip-flopped on my roster, on my bench throughout the entire season. And I dropped him right before he hit his stride. And I couldn't get him back. And I love who he is, and I love what he does. And I think he's, especially with Mark Ingram being released, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to have a huge year for Baltimore next year. And the reason why is because the bulk of his work came after he came off the COVID list when Mark Ingram was basically removed from the offense. It was about week 10 through 12 where he missed some time, him and Lamar Jackson. And in the last 5 weeks of the season, when he came back, he averaged almost 100 yards per game and scored 6 touchdowns in that time. Um, had he not missed those 2 games, I think he probably cracks the 1,000 yard mark. He finished with 809 rushing yards on the season. Um, so, give or take, he would have had to have 2 big games, but he was averaging close to 100, so he could have gotten there. And I just think having an offseason where he becomes the lead back and he's not splitting time between three different running backs, it'll just be him and a little bit of mix of Gus Edwards. I think he really will find his stride with running the football with Lamar Jackson, because that's essentially what John Harbaugh would love to do out there in Baltimore, and what's kind of been their MO as the last couple of years. And we already seen that Greg Roman, when called upon, is going to be a top 3 rushing offense since Lamar Jackson has come into the league. So
For all of our Lord of the Ring fans out there, John Harbaugh to his offense, you shall not pass.
You
Yeah.
shall not.
No, they run the ball and they don't.
They run the
they
ball,
st-
man.
They stick on that. They do.
I think it's been like 2 out of the last 3 seasons they've had over like 3,000 rushing yards as a team. Like, this is it's just
filthy.
completely insane. And I think he's the perfect running back to mix with Lamar Jackson, especially because of his running style. He can give you the power, but he's shifty and has some good top end speed. And like I said, they have Gus Edwards there still, but he'll be more like a third down back. The one area I worry for him is maybe in the passing game. He was involved early in the season in the passing game when he was kind of getting his feet wet in the league, but I think we'll start to see that target share go up to like maybe 3 to 5 a game, where he was getting maybe like 2 to 4 early on in the early part of last season. So
Could see that
J.K.
happening for
Dobbins.
sure. Yeah, J.K. Dobbins leads us into Jay. Jay, what do you think about your fantasy sleeper this year?
So big surprise, big surprise. I'm gonna round it out with another running back. So this is a guy.
Oh,
Ace and Andrew know already. I mean, especially when I play DFS, I will roster 3 running backs anytime I'm given the opportunity. And if Ezekiel Elliott is available to roster, I will roster Ezekiel Elliott. So we're just gonna preface with that. So my guy is somebody who, if you look at the first 9 weeks from last year, you'll really be questioning why I'm choosing him. David Montgomery, he finished last year with a little over 1,000 rushing yards, 54 receptions, 8 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns. Now, the really enticing part about David Montgomery was his usage towards the end of the season. In the last 6 weeks, or let me tell you about the first 9. In the first 9, he only scored 2 touchdowns, which is not what you want from your running backs. He only had 472 rushing yards, and he was on pace to being one of the worst running backs in 2020, no doubt. And he was a workhorse. He was somebody that they were trying to feed the ball. It just wasn't working. Then the last 6 weeks of the season came, and he turned into an absolute hoss. 598 yards, almost 100 yards per game, 8 touchdowns in that span, finished with 116 rushing yards. Had 27 targets, 24 catches on those targets. So a lot of people don't think of him as a PPR guy. Definitely showed you in those last few weeks that he can be. Ended up finishing as the running back 6 this year. And these are the only people he finished behind. That was Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and Aaron Jones. So he was a legit top 5-6 running back throughout the entire year, if you look at his whole body of work. But again, we're really focusing on those last few weeks. Right now, if you look at Fantasy Pros, he's currently ranked as running back 19. He's behind guys like, I know Andrew mentioned Dobbins, but he's behind like Akers, who we only saw get a full run when Jared Goff broke his hand. They really liked, I hate rostering Rams running backs, especially with Sean McVay.
Three-headed dragon, and he was the third head.
Oh, absolutely. And it took 2 injuries for them to finally go back to him. He had 2 fumbles in the mid part of the year when they really tried to give him some run. He's ranked as the 32nd overall player on ESPN, which I think is bad. Again, he's behind Akers, Robinson, Dobbins, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs, who for some reason people love Josh Jacobs. That dude does nothing for out of the backfield catching. And then the only caveat I will mention is that, the last 6 weeks of the season where he really made his bread and butter, he was was facing an easier schedule. He did play Green Bay twice, but he had a Detroit, a Minnesota, a Jacksonville, a Houston. So I do want to throw that caveat out there. But he's a guy that if we can continue to see this workload from, Nagy is a good enough offensive play caller with enough creativity. If he's going to get him the ball, especially let's not forget Allen Robinson very very well be gone next year. So I think that David Montgomery is a guy who's going overlooked in quite a few of these rankings so far early on in the season.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge us real quick before we move on to duds. I'm going to ask you guys, and we didn't, talk this over before, but who's the one factor on your current picks team, or just in general, maybe a factor that isn't on their team that would prevent them from even reaching your fantasy sleeper hype? Do you want to maybe go first, Andrew?
Sure. So you mean like a player on the team?
Could be anything. Could
for
be
the
a
player we
coach.
picked, or-
Could be a coach. Could be an angry wife he has at home. Could be new coach. Could be scheme. Could be they were. You think they were maybe just lucky last season and not actually the bee's knees. But I mean, J.K. Dobbins. He plays in a run style offense. Is he maybe going to fall out of favor for a reason? I don't know. What do you think, though?
I mean, Harbaugh's kind of had the tendency to kind of ride the hot hand at times. So you'll see like random weeks where Gus Edwards maybe gets up like upwards of like 15 to 18 carries and goes off for 120 odd yards and 2 touchdowns. But I don't know. This is one situation where I don't see that happening, only because Gus Edwards is more of like what you would call a slasher running back or a one cut running back. J.K. Dobbins is more of a versatile kind of, with these college running backs are starting to come see out in the league now, who can kind of do it all. Like, just in the last couple of years with Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey setting the standard, you want guys who can catch out of the backfield, can pass block, can run the football, and just kind of even going like, and I don't think Baltimore would do it, but maybe even lining them up outside as like a wide receiver. So I think as long as J.K. Dobbins is healthy and available, I think he'll probably get the bulk of the work. Unless, of course, Gus Edwards just decides to have like a few breakout games and ruin my entire league and ruin my entire season. So not many hurdles I can see for J.K. Dobbins except for Gus Edwards.
All right, so for me, I kind of already mentioned it. I mean, McKissick, exceeded his value as a pass catcher last season. I think when he was in stride with Alex Smith, it was 14 catches on one occasion, which is like wow, take that to the bank every day. I don't think it's a player that would kind of get in Antonio Gibson's way. I think it could just be we haven't seen Washington's offense in a full season with one quarterback, with just consistency across the board. I mean, it was his first season. He did come into an injury later in the season, so does that put him at a deficit to start the season? Probably not, but you're in your first season, and the running backs are not the most long withstanding positions in the league. So I think it would come down to just how does the team change, and is the running scheme change? Because even though they did win their division, they kind of play. Obviously they played in the NFC least, which is just unreal. Like, I mean, in terms of performance and just like disappointment last season, we saw it all from all 4 teams. So I think that's the factor is maybe just the unknown of consistency. Like, he played kind of hero ball here and there. He I think that Dallas game where he had like 3 touchdowns was like a phenomenal effort. But he also had some games where he didn't put in. He just got work via volume. So
Right.
I kind of need to see a little bit more on his front. I think that he likely sees an uptick, even if there's a little confusion as far as like who's going to start quarterback next year. But I still do believe in him, and I don't think that my reason is enough not to draft him. And I do like him, probably getting him in like the 5th round, unless he does start picking up some hype. You could probably get him like in the close to the early mid rounds and
Right.
play him as maybe running back two, or just an all season flex where, or just and even in DFS as well, like Johnny's our resident expert, but I would and I could see you building a couple lineups around him. All right, and then Jay, uh, David Montgomery, right? Who's gonna get in his way next season?
So yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it already as well, kind of like you did, where we saw that production not be there in the first part of the season. I don't think there's a more tilting thing than me rostering him and watching Cordero Patterson get 12 carries out of the backfield on some weeks. It's egregious. I don't want to see it. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
reason why it should happen. The dude comes out of the
sure.
backfield. He's got no gas. Tariq Cohen is another guy who was hurt last year. That may have had something to do with David Montgomery getting a little more work out of the backfield in terms of pass catching. But I think he's a really well developed three down back who is going to be able to sustain this productivity that he saw towards the back end of the season, so long as he's able to get it. Another thing is they need to stay in games. There were a lot of times in the beginning of the season where they just weren't in games enough to give him the ball, where they were needed to throw a ton. So I think that there are a few questions for David Montgomery, but again, compared to what some of these other guys who are getting drafted in front of him or being projected to get drafted in front of him have in front of them, I would say they're minuscule. I did have a couple of questions for you guys, is too, real quick. I know because I know we spent a little bit of time on this already. Asa, for Antonio Gibson, does his PPR and his ability to not really catch out of the backfield play any part for you? And for Andrew, and I'll let you guys answer this. The Ravens were the first team in a long time to have three rushers go for over 1,000 yards: Gus Edwards, Lamar, and J.K. Dobbins. So I do wonder if there's a ceiling that can be reached between Gus Edwards, Lamar, and Dobbins in that backfield. Maybe it gets a little too murky, but it very well may not if they stick with J.K. Dobbins as the main guy. So I guess those are two questions I have for you guys.
Yeah, I can start first. I don't think that we saw the best representation of his passing skills last season, but I don't think that he isn't above adding that to his repertoire. I just think that coming from like I'm a very neutral party when it comes to Washington, so I don't see necessarily the I don't look at Antonio Gibson like I do look at maybe Josh Allen or a bucket of wings. I do look at him. Did he serve me well? Yeah. Did he get me PPR like points? Did he succeed for me in a PPR league? He did. He don't have the stats off the top of my head, but he did have some games where he did catch a couple balls. So, but I feel like when we look at that and look at his script last year, it was chaos. And what was the outcome of chaos? It was a little bit of everything. We didn't I do think with like not having the whole Ron Rivera cancer kind of him overcoming his cancer kind of being a headline of the season. I feel like, and not to say that overshadowed anything, but like there was a few headlines. Alex Smith coming back and just being like, almost his former self. Like we saw some like some real feel good stories about Washington last year, but I feel like Antonio Gibson didn't get the love in that he maybe deserved. And I don't see him being having a deficit when it comes to catching. Would I still line up McKissick for passing plays over him? I would. Do I not think that they're both in the same room? They're both playing off of each other. So I do see Antonio Gibson picking off some things from McKissick that
Nice.
he can probably bring to his game.
That's true.
Yeah, for Dobbins, the Ravens aren't really like a heavy passing team anyway, as we touched on earlier. So his work in the pass game is going to be very situational, I would think. And with how quickly they got rid of Mark Ingram in the offseason, and some of that may have been due to like some sort of like contractual agreements for meeting deadlines and whatnot, that could have saved them some sort of money on the cap. Either way, they got rid of him rather quickly, and that made me feel a little bit better about how much confidence they have in J.K. Dobbins. So I think if they are going to pass the ball, that Dobbins will most likely get those targets unless they add some sort of pass catching back that they feel they need. but I think he's going to get the touches. I feel pretty confident that that's just first, second down coming. As long as first down gets him a couple yards, Ravens are most likely going to always run on second down, and that can change obviously because offenses fluctuate and stuff. But J.K. Dobbins just seems like unless something in the offseason changes, like his status right now, I would imagine that he's just going to get the bulk of the work. And like I said, like pass catching opportunities out of the backfield are limited to basically like 1 to 2 targets a game to the running back and maybe 1 to Patrick Ricard. So like I'm not their fullback while they're on the goal line or something. So I'm not too concerned.
Vulture.
I guess just yeah, exactly right. I guess just if they run into some very stout run defense, but we've seen them tear apart the best defenses in the league, and when they're on their game, they're really hard to stop, no matter who's running the ball back there. So
Absolutely. All right, we'll transition into the fantasy dud in a second. Just wanted to quickly mention that we are very much appreciative of anybody out there who connects on a visceral level with us. We only do this because we love the pain and torture of just watching sports all day and then talking about it, and it makes us feel happy inside. And I guess the phrase is coming to fruition. It's if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And some of us still have to work on the side, but this is some of the stuff that we love to do. So if you like and subscribe, it'll change our lives, and probably for the better, but I don't know that 100% just quite yet.
Let's find out.
I will report back later with an update if there is one.
Let's find out.
All right, guys. 2021, will it be better than 2020? Yeah, probably.
We hope so. Jesus, 2020 was. I'm sick of 2020.
Can't take it.
We're 2 months out of it, and I'm still sick of it. Like I just can't stand it.
It is a scientific fact that what goes up must come down. So,
right.
Is there who out there in the NFL is going to come down this season in a literal sense, in a philosophical sense? Who's our fantasy dud? If you have a fantasy dud, put them in the comments down below. We will also do the same, and we will pin our comments because we own this channel and we can do that.
Yes,
and you can comment on it and tell us we are wrong, and we are here for that because
accountability.
We love a little accountability and a little bit of competition. But all right, I will not start first this time. Let's go to our. I was going to call you the Italian Stallion, but you are neither. You are just the prototype.
Okay, there we go.
Talk to us, Jay. Who's your fantasy dud this year?
Thank you, Elizabeth, for affirming that, by the way. This weekend, it wasn't just because it was my birthday. I truly believe she believes that. My fantasy dud is a big name who, since leaving New York, and Eli Manning, which is a thing I did not think I'd be saying, has put up little numbers. It is Odell Beckham Jr. When healthy, he's one of the most amazing talents in the league. He's one of the fastest. He's one of the best route runners. He is a guy who seemed like he was going to produce no matter where he went. And then we saw him go to Cleveland and saw no one else produce there. And he fit in just along like everyone else and did the same. 3 out of 4 years he's been injured. He's missed 28 regular season games over the last 4 years. But even when he was healthy, I mean, he finished as I have it down here. He was wide receiver. I'm so sorry. My handwriting is absolutely atrocious.
We know, buddy.
He finished as wide receiver 25, barely over 1,000 yards, only had 4 touchdowns in 2019, which was his only season when he was fully healthy with Cleveland. He's currently ranked as wide receiver 26th on Fantasy Pros. His own teammate, who is leaps and bounds a better fantasy producer, considering the efficiency and the volume of his targets, in Jarvis Landry, is 10 spots behind him on that site, which is egregious, and that's in PPR formats. But right now he's behind the likes of he's in front of the likes of Deebo Samuel, Devontae Parker, Robbie Anderson, Adam Thielen, Rashad Higgins, Cooper Kupp. I mean, these are guys who every year over the past 3 years have outproduced him. And even in the seasons when he's healthy, I'm going to say that that these guys are still going to outproduce him. So just because OBJ has a great Instagram following and he's got the great hair and he does one-handed catch, you don't get extra points in fantasy for one-hand catches. Okay, four
Tell him, Jay.
touchdowns is
Tell him.
four touchdowns. 70 catches is awful. PPR standard. I don't care what format you're playing. OBJ is a dude that I love. I thought he was going to go to Cleveland. I thought there would be a chance where Baker Mayfield and him would be able to connect. And it seems like Cleveland is very much ingrained in this running back by committee. They are very focused on feeding Kareem Hunt, very focused, obviously, on feeding Nick Chubb, who's, in my opinion, one of the top 5 backs in the league, and they need to get him the ball more and stop giving it to Kareem Hunt.
Great running back.
For another day. And then they play action pass with the tight ends. And, I mean, they went and signed Austin Hooper when they already had David Njoku. I mean, they have 3 tight ends over there who'd be starting for most NFL franchises. So definitely think OBJ is a guy who's being a little overvalued. I don't think he's being egregiously overvalued. But when you take into effect, like I said, that injury history, it's a guy that I want no part of, whether that be in season long. DFS, maybe if his price gets low enough, you can talk me into him. But my fantasy dud going into 2021 is going to be Odell Beckham Jr. again, which is kind of hard to say. I don't like saying it, but that's who it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I get you. I mean, you have to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? And with Odell, it's been very hit or miss, and usually misses. And you're probably not wrong on that island. OBJ does not do your body good like OJ, and not the one from Buffalo. All right, Andrew. What do you think, A?
I'm going wide receiver here, just like Johnny did.
Did we all choose wide receivers?
We probably did.
We most certainly did.
Let's go. We must have. If that's the reaction. Mine. I don't know how people are gonna feel about mine. I like the guy. My problem is I don't trust the franchise that he plays for and them getting his quarterback the help that he desperately needs, which is an offensive line. I cannot believe Russell Wilson is being sacked as much as like guys like Deshaun Watson who play for the Houston Texans. But my guy is DK Metcalf, and I know that's gonna kind of come like people might be shocked by that one. But DK Metcalf had a really strong start to his 2020. My concerns are going to come with what happened in the back half of the season, as opposed to what like my sleeper did. Who popped at the end of last season. DK Metcalf really was quiet. He only had one 100-yard game from weeks 8 through 17. So talking about like 9 games. In those first 8 weeks of the season, he had 4 out of those 7 games he played. And I think a lot of it had to do with his quarterback not being protected, their inability to move the ball because Chris Carson was hurt, so they relied too heavily on the pass game. So he's a real big physical receiver. He's can catch in traffic. He's got great speed, but he's going to be playing last year's number 1 ranked defense in the NFL, the Los Angeles Rams, twice a year. San Francisco, as we know, is going to get healthier, and they're going to be a problem in that division. And now when you couple that with them playing a first-place schedule going into next season, games are going to get a little tougher. They're going to get a little tighter. He's going to see even, people are going to now have this film on him, and they're going to see a little more of what he does well, what makes him uncomfortable. And I think his touchdown regression from last year really showed that when they were able to kind of put a cap on him. He only scored 2 touchdowns in his last 5 games. Before that, he had 8 total on the season. So unless Seattle really invests like in an offensive line and I start to feel more comfortable about what they can do, like what Russell Wilson can do in the pocket, I think DK might have, little less production than he did last year and probably won't find himself on the All-Pro and Pro Bowl teams that he did. Because last year he finished with 83 catches for over 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. So deservedly so, making those teams. And it's kind of hard to, say a guy who put up those numbers is going to be a dud going into the next year when he's only, 23 years old. But I do think we'll see a little bit of regression there, especially because of the situation that his quarterback finds himself in.
Yeah, I absolutely see where you're coming there. I sense a theme coming across our three picks, and you
Bum,
don't know
bum,
who my
bum.
pick is yet, but you will in just a sec. So I think we all picked three like physically fantastic like specimens at the wide receiver position, where we're talking about they could be wide receiver ones on any team in the league. My player is Justin Jefferson, and
Ooh,
that is a spicy pick.
that is.
And I don't think that you can say that has nothing to do with his physical talent. And I do feel like some players can come overcome every obstacle that can come in their way if they do have the physical talent. This is one part mental, and I think well, one part mental, one part offensive line, and then one part just quarterback. So mentally speaking, like I don't think that he has the panache, so to speak, just quite yet. I do think he believes in himself 100%. He thinks he is one of the top five wide receivers in the game. And do I think that he is setting himself up for a trap? A little bit. Not to say that, like, he can't speak that highly of himself, too, but you got to show it, right?
Mhm.
And how many games last season did he perform well? Let's go over his stats real quick. So, in his games that he was so to speak, fantastic, against the Lions, 9 catches, 133 yards. Against the Chicago Bears, 8 catches for 104 yards. Jacksonville Jaguars, 9 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. Carolina, 7 for 70 with 2 touchdowns. Did he have elite games? Yes. Did he finish at kind of the top of the leaderboard wide receivers? Pretty much, but I look at it in a couple of ways. I look at at his opponents. Did they double cover? Was there double coverage towards the end of the season? Yeah, maybe. And some of those games I listed off were towards the end of the season, so he did overcome some of that. But going into next season, do we not think that he's going to be covered well? Oh, he's definitely going to draw the CB1 on most teams. Whereas Adam Thielen got that probably to start this year, and maybe not to end this year. I feel like Justin Jefferson will be, pulling in the Marshawn Lattimores, the the elite cornerbacks of the league. Let me list off some bad games though. So to start the season, he had a 3 for 26, a 3 for 44. Against Tennessee, he went 9 for 175 with a touchdown, and then everybody was like, "Pick up Justin Jefferson." He was already on my fantasy lineup though, so
That a
I
boy.
had faith. I had faith in him. Against Seattle, physical defense, he went 5 for 23 in the middle of the season. In the middle, like right in the middle of the season, he had a 4 for 26 game, a 4 for 64 game, and a 5 for 86 game. So like, why such mixed results? Well, he's a rookie, right? And what does a rookie have to rely on? Well, he has to rely on a good team, a good coach, a good quarterback. And in most cases, what did we get last year? Well, quarterback play was not the best. Kirk Cousins did take a step back. I don't think he is for meant to be there for too long. However, until he gets kicked out of Minnesota, he is the quarterback one, right? And we have to assume that they are tied together in terms of results. He Cousins is more than capable of making sure that Justin Jefferson, his number one wide receiver, gets the ball. However, I do see some complications possibly in the future there. And then I also look at their O line. I feel like they underperformed last season. Will they make some changes? We all know that offensive linemen can be changed in the draft. We know that. We do know that you can draft an O lineman and start them immediately. That has been a recipe for a lot of teams. So, are they going to look at doing that? Probably. I just don't see Justin Jefferson having another amazing jaw to the ground performance that we saw this year, because I do feel like the competition is going to be harder. We do know that a sophomore slump exists in the NFL. We also know that some of the greatest to ever do it believed in themselves wholeheartedly. So I do think he is on track to be not on that upper echelon just quite yet. But I mean, we know the personality it takes to demand the ball and just to overcome it at all odds. And I do think that his sophomore year he's going to heed some challenges that he'll be able to take with him into his third season, and then probably be like top 5 wide receiver. I just think that we're all expecting him to be a top 10 wide receiver, and I will draft him if need be, but I'm not expecting him to have his 9 catches for 170-yard types of games. I'm looking at it as if he will have lots of duds inside those games, and a risky DFS play because of that. So I mean,
I like it.
we all have a player that can change. They're all playmakers and game changers, right, at their best, and I do think they all kind of serve a purpose in the league, right? They're physical
Right.
specimens. They bring in a ton of attention, and they're all actually very exciting, right? OBJ, even though was injured much of last season, is still he still brings the excitement to the league that you would expect from someone who was as highly touted as he was after his first season with Eli Manning. So
Right. Yep.
let's I'm gonna we'll do a little bit differently this time around, but I'm gonna speak about Jay's pick. Jay, you'll speak about Andrew. Andrew, you'll speak about me, and let's all say why we're wrong. So Andrew, why am I wrong? Why is Justin Jefferson going to be a top 10 wide receiver next season?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to channel my inner Kyle Brandt here because I like being on the emotional side of football and believing in people. Unlike you seem to be about Justin Jefferson at the moment. No, I'm totally kidding. Justin Jeff. I mean, I think I think what makes him what could really allow him to continue his breakthrough is his route running. And I think more and more you're seeing a lot of guys come into the league, and route running is becoming more and more superior because of how talented the defenses are, and honestly how much the offensive side of the ball kind of gets a little bit of I get not really help, I guess is the wrong way to say it, but it's hard to touch wide receivers nowadays. So the more shifty you can be, and the quicker you can be in and out of your breaks, and the less contact that you can create off the line of scrimmage, which I think is what he excels at, might be what keeps him in that upper echelon of receiver. But I could definitely see your concerns with Adam Thielen on the other side of 30, and Kirk Cousins throwing the ball where there's questions on the offensive line. But I think his route running ability will be able to kind of get him past those hurdles in a few different ways, and he'll make his mark on the season in a bunch of games. I don't think they'll be successful as a team, unfortunately, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's over that 1,000-yard mark again, just based on his route running ability.
Well, absolutely. So one of the things that Minnesota's offensive line struggled with last season was pressure rate. They allowed I believe their interior linemen allowed they were not startable in terms of backups on other teams were performing better, allowing less pressure rate. Kirk Cousins is a pocket passer, so if it is a design pass play and he is getting a lot of pressure, I mean, I do see the correlation there. But if they set up a type of Roethlisberger style of offense, right? I mean, I could totally see him making some of those strides. And I kind of the Buffalo Bills did trade for Stephon Diggs, and he was the Stephon Diggs pick at number 22. So had we not gotten Diggs, we would have maybe potentially got an elite route runner as well. And they both have that in common where, Jefferson will probably be one of the elite route runners as Diggs is currently. I totally get you there. So why do I think? And this is probably the hardest. So give me a second to give me. Let me channel my cocaine on a hotel bed vibes from OBJ, and let me actually partake in a little. No, I'm just kidding. It's not hard to say OBJ will be an elite wide receiver next season. Do I think the odds are against him? Yes, and I completely agree with Jay. The way that I look at it, though, Baker Mayfield had a successful season last year. He is slowly, and I mean slowly, but he's only been in the league for a few years. But he is making strides. Has he lived up to his number one draft seed? I wouldn't say so just quite yet. So that's the way I kind of look at it. Is if I continue to see strides in Baker Mayfield, I will continue to see strides in OBJ, and I do believe the quarterback to wide receiver correlation is strong, right? I do believe that it takes it takes you having those physical skill sets, but you need someone to throw you the damn ball, and so I guess I am doing my best Kyle Brandt impression. OBJ, top 10 wide receiver next year, just because the whole world doesn't want him to. So he is going to put on his Gucci pants. He's going to play with $2,500 watches, and he is going to light you up. And look at the time while he's doing so. What time is it? It's OBJ clock. It must be a morning game because you just drank your OJ, you're watching OBJ play, and you're looking at yourself and like saying, damn, I shouldn't have faded him in DFS today. I should have played him because he just caught his second touchdown, and it's still the first quarter. And guess what? That's it. I tried my best, but
That's good. It's a tough
Yeah.
one to work with, man. You don't have a lot in terms of what he's done lately to really fall back on. So.
yeah, and he was injured last season, so I do feel like he will be. I do actually think that his injury is probably putting him at a draft deficit where you're probably going to question where you draft him next season. I do see what you said though, and even if maybe he's like the 20th, I could maybe see him being like maybe the 15th to 20th wide receiver off the board because there are a couple of there's a lot of heavy talent with wide receivers. I wouldn't want him 15 to 20. I would probably feel more comfortable taking him like 25 to 30, which in most leagues is still a startable wide receiver too. He is just not a wide receiver one anymore. But that doesn't mean that this man can't, even though he is a highlight reel. I mean, it doesn't mean that he still can't be a stats reel. So we'll see. But I do root for the underdog. So as long as it keeps trending this way, I will probably root for him sometime in 2024.
I don't think anybody could tell as a Buffalo Bills fan that you are that you root for the underdog. I still remember when you were like, I'm going to be a Buffalo Bills fan. I was like, why? And he's like, because nobody's a Buffalo Bills fan.
Yeah, I think that was like circa 2010 or 2011. They were like
a long time ago.
I mean, we it tells you a lot about a franchise when Ryan Fitzpatrick has been like the best best quarterback that we had in between, drafting Josh Allen and
by a long shot.
Harvard boy, baby, a Harvard boy.
and I mean, we have a rich history in Buffalo of running back elitism. I mean, OJ and Thurman Thomas. We just even Fred Jackson. Hell, I'll put him in there. We just haven't had that star level yet. But I do hold out hope. Maybe we'll draft Najee Harris this year.
I waited 15 weeks for your boy Singletary, man. Did me dirty in fantasy last year. I waited 15 weeks.
I am so glad no one started off the show by saying my fantasy sleeper is Devin Singletary. I would have just walked off. Off screen.
After Buffalo came out in the first two playoff games, and I think ran the ball a total of like 9 times, and 6 of them were with Josh Allen. It was over. We're like,
I wrote in my notes already. Don't draft Buffalo running backs.
Josh Allen is the Buffalo running back.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean. They are the antithesis to John Harbaugh's Baltimore Ravens. I mean, it's always good to have that type of like extreme like type of football being played. I do think that it can serve you well. I do have hope that Zach Moss, we call him Zemo here in Buffalo, New York. We call him Zemo because he does Zemo, but he does have Z mode. We just didn't press that button last year enough, so we'll see. I do have hope that they will be sleepers this year. and then surprise some people because
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens. You know, we underestimate the power of the underdog.
Right.
Buffalo is the city of underdogs,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
just like blue cheese is the underdog to ranch. But come on, guys,
Ooh, ooh, don't like that mold.
go.
Uh,
Where's your Kansas City rub? Come on, get out of here, get out of here.
It's right in the cabinet. I got some waiting.
Okay. All right, Jay.
yeah,
So you got to hear us talk.
love it.
DK Metcalf is a physical specimen. He is
Tell me why I'm wrong. Come on.
he is unworldlike. Like, come on, why is this guy wrong?
So I'm gonna kind of say this in terms of and break it down into two things, right? Because I don't think you're wrong if you're looking at DK Metcalf in terms of standard fantasy leagues, season long fantasy leagues. I 100% agree. You gave the stat as about last year he only had like 75 catches. DK Metcalf is a take the top off the defense guy. Yeah, that's what we knew he was going to be coming in. We knew, unlike Justin Jefferson, that he was not a refined route runner. One thing about DK Metcalf, and you can notice this the more that you watch him, it's pretty easy to see his hip fluidity just is not there. And I don't know if it's just because he's just a big dude. I mean, we all know the famous workout picture at Ole Miss. I mean, AJ Brown is a monstrosity, and he looks puny next to DK Metcalf. And a lot of that, again, does affect how you're able to move in and out of your cuts. A lot of what DK Metcalf did was getting those jump balls. Russell Wilson throws one of the best deep balls in the league besides Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And he allowed DK Metcalf to go up and get those. And that's something that in DFS, I'm all over. I want that. You know, he has those 140 plus yard games with 2 touchdowns, and that's what we're looking for in DFS. When we're going to season longs, we're looking for consistency. I don't need my wide receiver to get me 40. It's great if he does, but I need a guy. I mean, like Tyler Lockett is a guy who benefits a ton having DK Metcalf off his team because you always have to rotate that safety over the top to DK Metcalf, and that allows for soft underneath coverage where Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson are able to connect and break down those zone defenses. So I would say you're wrong when you're looking at it through the lens of DFS because he's always going to be a superstar when it comes to DFS because he has that big touchdown ability that when we're playing tournaments, right? Now, we'll go over this when we talk about DFS stuff, but when we're playing cash, right, with DK Metcalf, maybe a guy, I don't think I played DK Metcalf once all year because in cash, I don't need it. I'm trying to hit my
Right.
150 and get out the door with my 70% head-to-head wins. But when we're in tournaments looking for that upside, especially with lower ownership, which, I mean, he's a big name, so we don't always get that, we're looking for DK Metcalf to take the top off. So I agree with you and disagree with you at the same time. So I did kind of caught myself out there, but you guys will get over it, I think.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's all real. You get the stats. You can look at them as objectively as you want, but you still got to take a side, right? You still got to say, well, 80% of the time they catch the ball and they had 0 drops or whatever the stats are for any given wide receiver. I do find it funny how we both all 3 of us chose a running back for our sleeper and a wide receiver for a dead. I wonder what that tells you though. Like, are we still as a league undervaluing running backs? And I started off my segment saying I do think we do. If you look at the Christian McCaffrey a couple of seasons ago, like blew everybody out of the water. Every quarterback, the number 1 fantasy player in the league. This year so happened to be Josh Allen, our Mandalorian savior, but it just so but every league is every year in daily fantasy and regular fantasy leagues are going to be a little bit different. I can speak more to a fantasy league and knowing that I can most likely get a sleeper candidate anywhere in the draft. So I looked at our list, right? So we had Montgomery, we had I'm already forgetting my guy. We had we had Montgomery, we had Gibson, and we had J.K. Dobbins.
Right.
And I can guarantee you, people are like listening to this right now, and they're saying to themselves, "Well, those guys were sleeper candidates last season. So give me one off the book. You didn't even think about it too much. Give me one other candidate who you think could have a good season." And so, since I asked this question, I'll think first. But the way I look at it is, did they underperform? Did they get the benefit of having extra time in the position. Whereas I look at maybe like Montgomery and James Robinson as being like volume plays. That's how I associate them as far as like when I build a fantasy lineup or if I'm going to start them or not. So I'm trying to think of who I didn't think got a lot of volume last year and that I could see being successful. And against all my doubts, okay,
Oh boy.
I think it's Austin Eckler. No, it's not against all my doubts. Austin Eckler is a hell of a player, but he does have a Sean McVay coach tree candidate now coaching his team, right? Who probably is going to embrace the three-headed running back, but I don't think as much as Anthony Lynn last season. Anthony Lynn loved his running backs. He ran everybody out to run. Like
Collage.
yeah, Balaj out of nowhere had like a fantastic like mid half to like three quarters of the way into the season. So I do think that they'll probably roster the three running backs that they did last season. Even if they don't, I do think Austin Eckler is not being as valued. Again, I just listed off someone else who isn't off the cuff as much. If I am going to do that, then maybe Cam Akers. To your point, Jay, I know you said earlier you want to avoid McVay and whatnot, but I could see Cam Akers being a tournament play, right? Where like you have to kind of choose who's going to go off for the LA Rams, and Cam Akers kind of willed them to a playoff spot last season because he played
Right.
so well at the end of the season. So I would say Eckler and Akers, two West Coast boys who are not playing in the most completely built teams yet, so they do have a lot of room to grow. If we're talking about Eckler being better than he was, like he's been a top three running back to finish the season. So if I'm going out on a limb, I could say he could be number one, right? We saw what injuries did last season to the running backs. So that's kind of my idea there. I've given you guys enough time to think about it. Andrew, what do you think? Off the cuff, like I said, Eckler and Akers. You can probably do better than me.
For me, I think Miles Gaskin. I'm
Ooh,
going running back here too. Um,
nice.
I think Miles Gaskin had a very very quiet, really good season. If it, I think he also ran into the COVID-19 list, and his stay on that list got prolonged to about 5 games. Um, so he really missed a lot of time, and Miami really missed it. I think had he been in that lineup, maybe they win a couple more games and sneak into the playoffs as a wild card. Um, I don't know. I just like what I saw from him. He's a lot faster than you think he is. He's tough as nails. A lot of these running backs coming out of college are nowadays. He's a little bit smaller guy, so that's what might concern me. But I really like what I saw from Miles Gaskin at the end of last season. He really showed out in week 16 too against the Raiders. He ripped off a 70-yard touchdown off a little screen pass. And the only reason I remember is 'cause I was watching it. Just wanted to see the Raiders implode. But yeah,
Yeah, imagine him with a full season of Tua turn the ball over. I mean,
turn the
no, but yeah, I mean, hey, blooming offense. Hit the gas man. Gaskin did really well last season. I like that a lot. Jay, it's gonna be hard to beat that. I mean,
bring it.
your brain is to speak to our wide receiver group is just out of this world. So who are you thinking?
Yeah, it's a tough go following you two. I'm gonna give you okay. I'm gonna start this with with both guys actually that were almost my sleeper. One of them is obviously not a sleeper, but I just love this guy so much. I'm gonna talk about him all the time. Ezekiel Elliott. Again, this is going to be quick because I don't need to say too much about him. He's fantastic. Tony Pollard took a little bit of the reins at the end of last season because they were out of the playoff hunt. So I don't want to hear about not getting the workload. If you look at the first 4 weeks with Dak Prescott, he had 3 games of over 20 carries. Not to include, he had almost 10 to 12 targets. I want to say it was in those 4 games, which is what you're looking for from Zeke. He had 4 touchdowns in the 4 games. So I'm going with Zeke. But my real off the board guy, and I don't really think he's too off the board if you followed fantasy football last year, but he's a name that not a lot of people have talked about. I know Asa knows him because he's my DFS glory boy from the last few weeks of the season. Cole Kmet, another Chicago Bear, played. Yeah, tight end. I gave you a tight end.
Wow.
You're welcome, AJ
Boom.
Sports Nation. A tight end for your troubles. Cole Kmet, he's playing 90-something% of the snaps, only to see Jimmy Graham take 2 touchdowns
I
against
knew
the
it.
fucking Saints.
Okay, Cole Kmet, yes, fantastic. Now every part of my being wants him to just run the ball, so we can connect the dots. That I just kidding. I mean, we didn't preface. It had to be a running back. I just was thinking running backs, but because that's what we chose. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Cole Kmet, Jimmy Grandpa, not probably going to play on that team next year, right? So
No, and we don't know about Allen Robinson. He's a guy that Matt Nagy wanted to get involved. He played a ton of snaps last year. He got a good target share towards the end of the year. Mitch checked down Trubisky is always looking to the tight ends. So I'm all about Cole Kmet.
let me just take over here real quick and for a second and just thank you all for watching so far. It's been a nice rounded out hour of smart analytical takes by us, as well as we kind of got a little motivated there. But what I really wanted to say is, for a second there, I was like, I asked him the best running back, and this guy's talking about a tight end, and then Andrew and I think both were like, Jay, what are you talking about? And that just goes to show you that even we surprise ourselves sometimes. So thank you. We are so invested in what we do and what we talk about that we forgot that the homework was who's a sleeper next year, and we all just I wrote myself into a box there thinking that oh my God, he's gonna ruin the show by talking about a tight end, and then I made a joke about hoping that he would have a run, and so I just wanted to say, Johnny Jay, I am sorry for doubting you, and thank you for being the most into of the segments, and I swear it's probably just first show jitters.
Absolutely.
But thank you for listening.
So probably be the first and only fantasy show outside of Chicago that mentions 2 sleepers from the Chicago Bears.
I'm all about it, baby. Matt Nagy season. Let's go.
Once upon a time, Johnny Cassis. I'm just kidding. Anyways, yeah, I mean it's
I'm at the top 5 tight end next year. That's all I'm saying.
It's not yeah, I mean probably once in a lifetime that you're right, but it's not a fairy tale, right? David Montgomery was a workhorse, and he got volumes up the wazoo, and I mean Cole Kmet outperformed Jimmy Graham when he had the opportunity. So I like both those picks. I think you are a very educated gentleman to think of those, and good on you. So we did talk a lot of bit on our fantasy sleepers and duds. Again, shoot it in the comments. We love the back and forth. We love to hear other people's points of views. We specifically love to hear your point of view because we hear ours enough as it is. So we're going to transition to the next part of our show, best of the weekend. Now, we can start off with the best or start off with the worst. You guys can tell me if you guys want.
Worst.
Let's do the worst. Yeah.
And then just like some WandaVision magic, worst of the weekend. Okay. Who wants to go first? Andrew, your worst of the weekend. I just checked.
Oh boy. Okay, so are we doing a sport? I know this. We're like we talked about like is it sports or like is it like personal? Are we doing both or? So
let's go around the table of our sports, and then we'll kind of enrich everybody with our personal lives at the end of the show.
Okay, so starting off with sports, I know I promised that I would try and keep my bias out of the show more than Johnny, but here I am already showing it. For a short period of time over the weekend, Deshaun Watson was rumored to be favored to going to the Denver Broncos, and I almost had a heart attack. I do not want him there. He can go anywhere else. Do not come to Patrick Mahomes' division. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. You can go to Carolina. You can throw your 35 touchdowns. You could win yourself a division, but I do not want to see him in a Denver Broncos uniform. And thankfully, the Panthers came out of the weekend as the favorite now. I'm not a betting man, but I'm a praying man, and I'm praying he goes to the NFC, far away from our boys.
I don't think you're wrong in that. I think both of us look at it as we both have AFC, or all three of us have AFC favorite teams. So yeah, Deshaun Watson not going to the AFC is probably top of our all of our lists. My worst of the weekend is something that just happened, and it's just palm to face, like literally. And then I did this kind of thing where I kind of like put two fingers on my temple and I rubbed it for a second. And hear me out. I love competition. I love competition. I want to see the Buffalo Bills win the AFC next year, beating the best of the best. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers agreed to bring back Ben Roethlisberger. And that is the worst of the weekend. Ben Roethlisberger, I've been rooting for you for a very long time. I watched you play. I watched you win 2 titles. I thought to myself, as Josh Allen's very early age, I was like, yeah, we might have a young Roethlisberger here. When Josh Allen has been playing in this league for so many years and then can only throw the ball 2 to 4 yards every pass play, I will reconsider my stance on Josh Allen. I've watched you play the short game the whole year. I mean, you have Juju. You have elite wide receivers. Okay, well, I mean, Juju thinks he's an elite wide receiver, but I mean, Deontay Johnson.
Good.
I mean,
Claypool.
Chase Claypool.
Washington is his go to for. You have Ebron, right? Like, dude, like you had the talent, but just do us all a favor, just go. Like,
Yeah.
let and Pittsburgh is SOL anyways, but that's why they're asking you to come back because they don't want Dwayne Haskins to start. And so I should have maybe started this off by saying that was the best thing of the weekend, so not to see Dwayne Haskins make a start in the NFL. So maybe I'll do for both. I'll just change my best of the weekend.
Yeah,
but
love it.
But oh man, I am not thrilled to see Ben Roethlisberger bring a mediocre offense again. And yeah, I mean, they're going to have good games. They're going to have bad games. Every NFL team has that. But the Pittsburgh Steelers is not coached to be a short passing game team, and it has the tools to be a dynamic offense. And when you see dynamic players playing undynamic, which I don't even know if is a word, we'll fact check that.
It's a word now.
We'll make it one.
You get a little frustrated. So worst of the weekend is seeing Roethlisberger again. Will I complain for the Buffalo Bills? No, but my Buffalo Bills lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, and if they couldn't beat the Chiefs, they wouldn't have beat the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. So I'm okay with them losing because they lost to a better team. So Pittsburgh, we play you next season. So good luck. Josh Allen and company is
Can't wait to hang 40 on you.
Is going to whip you guys again. Sorry about the bias, folks, but yeah. Okay, so worst of the weekend, Jay.
Like I said in the beginning of the show, we don't show bias around here. It's not what we're doing.
We're just humans,
No, we're just here, non-biased parties talking about sports. So my worst of the weekend, and I guess it's the worst of Monday now because it's Tuesday. We're talking about it, but it's about Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, as we spoke about a little bit, is easily in my top 5 athletes of all time, and the 15-time major champ was seriously injured in a car wreck in Los Angeles Tuesday. He underwent several hours of emergency surgery to repair what doctors called a significant orthopedic leg injury to his lower right leg and ankle. And I'm going to pull up a quote here from LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva, who said Tiger was traveling northbound on Hawthorne Boulevard at a relatively greater speed than normal while descending a steep hill in an area that has a high frequency of accidents. He got into the incident. He said there were no skid marks in the road and no signs that Tiger Woods attempted to brake. Tiger did have to be brought out of his car with the jaws of life. The sheriff that did arrive on the scene said that he was coherent, was able to fully and lucidly communicate with him. All good things to hear. He did suffer multiple fractures to his leg. So again, that's something that he's going to have to be worked out. We've seen Tiger come back from a lot. I don't know how much more he can come through. The back injuries were absolutely terrible for him. He's talked about them on multiple occasions. And it's something that, it took a long time for him to work through.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all I want to say is I hope that Tiger gets better. He's been through quite a bit of turmoil in his life over the last 5 years. Personally, physically, we want to see the best Tiger. I'm afraid that we've already seen it. I'm grateful that I was able to see it, but is the worst of my weekend, worst of my Tuesday. So it's weeks, but yeah, just wishing the best for Tiger.
Yeah, definitely. We've all actually, the three of us in this room have been afflicted by a car accident changing the wavelengths of our lives. So, yeah, I mean, it. I didn't even hear the news right away. I'll be honest. I don't know why I wasn't on social media as much, but later on in the day, I don't have cable TV, but I decided to go onto my parents' Spectrum app. Thank you, parents, for having cable. And then I saw it, and I was like, my heart dropped for a second because I was like 13 months removed from Kobe, and I thought something bad happened. It was enough that we lost, the greatest Los Angeles Laker in history, and then we, in my mind, I was like, oh crap. So yeah, we're with you, Tiger. Like, we hope you feel better, man. We know that you will get better. But he is a parent, and so maybe he chooses the path of least resistance, and he goes into the distance as one of the greatest to ever play in any sport in history of sports, and will probably hold that for many years to come, probably decades if we're being honest here. So yeah, for sure. Thank you for saying worst of the weekend first, because that gives us a chance to feel a little bit better about ourselves. But before we do that, let's talk about the worst thing to happen to ourselves this weekend. And I will go first. I sent these to a 4 minute and 8 second video yesterday about me ranting because I was watching a rerun episode of, well, it was pre-recorded, but of the Wheel of Fortune. And the worst thing I did this weekend, or I watched this weekend, not many bad things happened to me. I am overly optimistic. I love life. I cursed more than anyone should in a week, let alone their lifetime. I said some things about Pat Sajak that I, I stand behind completely. But I watched cringy game show for 21 minutes or whatever pre-recorded time it is. And don't get me wrong, people are not, these are people from their homes. They are transplanted onto a game show. They're nervous. But Pat Sajak, you've been doing this show for 38 years, buddy. I need you to be better. I need you to be a better host. I need you to be more likable. I need you to be more coherent. I need you to not confuse your contestants and not confuse the people at home. I need you to get paid the millions of dollars you get paid to do the best job in the world and do it better. And if you don't do it better, then put yourself on the wheel, spin yourself out of existence, land on bankruptcy, and just go bye-bye. Because, like, I generally love Wheel of Fortune, but this whole last year I've been watching the Wheel of Fortune, and I've been saying to myself, Pat Sajak, I could do the job better than you. And I'm not a game show host. I am a funny, charismatic, a likable guy who has no experience as a host of a game show, who thinks they could be put into that position and do reasonably well.
Full confidence in you, buddy.
I don't expect you to be perfect, but I expect you to actually look like you care. And that was the worst thing I saw this weekend. If you guys have Hulu, you could probably watch it. If you record Wheel of Fortune on your parents' TV like my parents do, then you could probably watch it. But Fallon, you did terrible yesterday. It's not your fault. It's Pat's fault. Worst thing I did this weekend. I had to throw that in there, guys. And these guys will probably watch that video a few times this week and just to laugh because
Watched it 3 times already.
It was that funny. All right, Andrew, what was the worst thing that happened to you this weekend?
Not a lot of bad stuff happened this weekend, so it was kind of hard to pick one.
Absolutely.
We had some great tacos on Saturday. Spent some time together. Celebrated Jay's birthday. But let me tell you, mine is very minimal compared to the egregious nature of watching Wheel of Fortune that Asa has experienced. Mine actually has to do with my hands. My hands have suffered mightily throughout COVID. and washing hands and drying them out. And I've told Johnny about it. My hands, my knuckles start to crack and bleed. And this week they reached their breaking point this weekend. So I've been lotioning up. I'm feeling optimistic, but
Attaboy.
the hand washing with COVID has definitely dried out my hands. And this weekend they started bleeding. Just because I am not an avid lotion user, and I will hope to improve on that. So
You gonna learn today.
my worst of the weekend was they look okay right now. Thank God we're on a not so amazing camera, and you guys nobody can see my hands. But
Thankfully, we do not judge you on the moisture level of your hands.
Thank
we
you,
judge
guys.
you on the value of yourself and the content of your character. I don't know if it was because I was a dishwasher, for many years, but like my hands are golden.
You
like,
know it, baby. Me too. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the constant like abuse of always being underwater and just scrubbing those hard dishes and all the chemicals that maybe just washed away something on my hands. But I thankfully do not have that problem during the coronavirus, and I do sanitize and wash my hands frequently. So I don't want to rain on your parade, buddy, but I'll try to send you any tips that I have.
Thank you.
Get it together.
I
together.
sanitize and I wash. I just don't moisturize. I forget, and then they crack, and then I feel really bad about myself.
So what you guys don't see at home is we have cue cards behind our webcams. We don't. And one of the cue cards right now just said ad lib masturbation joke. I don't know if you guys watch The Office, but sorry. He talked about hands, so we had to make one hand joke. We had to make one hand joke. Thankfully, this is adult content.
Yes, it is,
and not the other adult content. But okay, we are handing this off to Jay. So Jay, what was the worst of the weekend for you, buddy?
Okay, again, I'm going to go a little off the board because I had a phenomenal weekend. You will see it in my best of the weekend here when we get to our personal section. So my worst of the weekend is going to be sports related, but just how it affected me personally. The Los Angeles Lakers have been terrible, and I'm sick of it. Okay, Dennis Schroeder's been out. Anthony Davis has been out. First, we lost to Brooklyn on Thursday. No KD. All right, it's okay. We'll get over it. Then Saturday, we lose to Miami. Close fought game. We lose by 2. Wesley Matthews takes the last shot of the game. Okay. 2 in a row. You think it can't get much worse until Monday night comes around and we lose to the Washington Wizards in overtime. And as we were recording, we just got blown out by over 20 to the Utah Jazz. So Anthony Davis, get your little arse back here. You're supposed to be the young gun here. I got my boy LeBron out here putting up MVP numbers. I mean, he does it every day in his sleep. He just shows up. He rolls out of bed, 25, 5, and 5, just because he does, because he's LeBron freaking James. But considering that's the worst of my weekend, it's been a pretty dang good weekend. So I'm ready to move on to the best of the weekend. Talk about that.
That is a phenomenal reason to move on to the best of the weekend. And not just because...
Tell Elizabeth we said bless you, by the way.
We are going to have to talk about that with my wonderful bride, Lord Lizzie, off screen. My wife is an extraordinary human being who also sneezes extraordinarily loud. Loud enough that my very fancy microphone that I ordered on Amazon, I'll add it to the link below, picked it up, and she's just texting me right now to kick rocks. And I love you, honey. Every show we'll have to put out a couple minutes of some time for you, because that is the least we could do.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, best of the weekend. I could probably just make this a segment where I just talk about my wife, but I don't. I'm not going to just lay into that too much. She and I both know how we feel about each other. Okay, let's do best sports thing to happen to this weekend. And I don't know, this is kind of like a bittersweet thing. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not a huge fan of the player. I just am glad he's kind of calling it a career. Best of the weekend is Albert Pujols playing his last season, but just kind of announcing it before he does, because I do like to think that like Kobe got the the goodbye tour for a reason, because we didn't not to say like anything morbid is going to happen to Albert Pujols, but yeah, I do like the fact that a player knows when it's time to call it a career. Albert Pujols has been a monster in a year, in a living through the and playing through the steroids era. I mean, and coming out clean, I believe, if I'm being
No
honest there.
scandal. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he was someone that I looked up to, even well, I'm not an Angels fan, but when he played for the St. Louis Cardinals and when he was playing for the Angels, I did look at that guy and like think, damn, I would love to have him on my team, especially with like the DH last season. Man, it would have been nice to see our Pujols and some Dodger blue. But yeah, I do think that seeing him call it a career is one of the best things I saw this weekend because I know he'll go into the sunset. The Angels will treat him well. He'll have a farewell tour. So I think that can only be good. I don't think and maybe we'll underestimate him as a player this year because we're all looking at him as saying goodbye to the league and not thinking he can still put it up there. But yeah, I mean this guy has hit a home run probably in every seat in every stadium. So this guy deserves to have a good sign off. So again, not super, not a pick that that I thought I was going to talk about. I don't avidly try to talk about the Angels, but to talk about Albert Pujols whenever I can because his time is almost up, I will. So
Nice.
Andrew, best sports thing of the weekend, bud.
I think if I'm not mistaken, this happened Friday or Saturday. But I love seeing people be inspired by Kobe. I know you mentioned him earlier in the broadcast. It's crazy how far his influence has reached into all the different sports and everything. And Naomi Osaka won the Australian Open for the second time, and immediately in her presser, she she's all dapped up in the Lakers gear, and she's giving her inspiration to Kobe, and as a lifelong Laker fan, and a guy who owns so many Kobe jerseys and just completely adored the guy throughout his entire career. It's nice to see how far his influence has stretched and how much impact he's had on other people's lives outside of my own, especially like the sport tennis. Like, I mean, it's tennis. When have we ever heard Kobe talk about tennis or anything? But here we are, young girls like Naomi Osaka, who's barely 23, inspired by the greatness and the lore of what and who Kobe Bryant and what he stood for and how he operated as a professional athlete. To see it stretch that far just really makes me feel good about who he was and why I supported him, and I just miss that man. And
Yeah, if I could just take a moment to talk about that real quick, I think if we didn't lose the great Kobe Bryant, for as dark of a place as his career and life looked at one point, involving woman and a scandal, and it defined who he was going forward. He was blessed with daughters. He was a girl dad. He wanted to see girls sports, females, women's professional sports take off. And I think because we lost him, we're not going to get that. And so that kind of not to bring us down in the best of the weekend segment, but man, I do wish and hope that after this unprecedented year and a couple months of world history, that we can kind of pay homage to him by putting female sports, trans sports, Olympic sports, Paralympic sports more on the map, because they might not necessarily bring in the value that a very popular MLB or NBA game will bring in, but we watch these games and we play these sports and we love these teams and players because they are people there, and they're not people that we really know on a platonic level. They're just people that we look up to, and so hopefully we can look up to more and more athletes that deserve it, and not just the people that make the news because they're OBJ and they make the news because Odell is Odell, and I'd rather hear more about Osaka and the thousands and thousands of athletes out there that deserve their spot in the spot in the spotlight, if that makes sense.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing up. I know we can only talk about Kobe in the past tense now, but I do think he is still making a spiritual impact on a lot of athletes who will probably become better athletes because of the way that he played the game of basketball. All right, Jay. Birthday
pick it
boy.
up. We're gonna pick it
birthday
up.
boy.
We're gonna pick it up a little bit.
Tell us the best of the weekend.
For sports wise, it is for my boy QB1 on the field, QB1 in our hearts. Mr. Patrick Mahomes welcomed a beautiful baby girl this weekend, Saturday the 20th. Sterling Sky Mahomes entered this lovely thing we like to call life, and she will be around watching her father, hopefully, keep slinging touchdowns on Sundays and Thursdays and Mondays and every other day of the week that Patrick Mahomes decides to play football. So congratulations and big ups to Brittany, to Patrick. So happy for you guys. Patrick, just want you to know, if you ever get to watch any of these, I'm going to let you know all the time. We love you, okay? We love you so much. We are your biggest fans. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise because they're lying, okay? They're lying. Okay, right here, AJA Show. Johnny and Andrew, we are your two biggest fans. So congratulations to Patrick Mahomes and congratulations to Brittany and hoping for a great and loving life for Sterling.
Absolutely. I I knew you were probably going to pick the best of the weekend being Sterling Sky Mahomes being born. So to kind of just stick a knife into you, Jay, I was going to say my worst of the weekend for sports was to see Sterling being called Sterling because that kind of is an interesting name. But I'm not going to talk any hate towards this baby girl at whatsoever. May you have a long, fruitful life and grow up to be a spitting image of your father. I'll continue. The best thing that happened to me this weekend. So the best thing that happened to me this weekend happened on Friday night. It actually was Saturday morning if you look at the clock. But WandaVision, episode 7. I mean, I had a lot of good things to choose this weekend, and I didn't want to choose things that I thought my brothers from another mother were going to choose. So I had to pick something else. And if you been watching WandaVision, it's been just a mind f the entire series so far, and we got a lot of like content this last episode, and they're two episodes away from just seeing where it goes, and it was one of those TV episodes where I haven't done this in a while, so I was like super pumped, and I was like, no, what? Like this, like just a little kid, like just being completely perplexed of seeing something happen for the first time, and I do like the what the show's done so far, and I do think that they're going to just keep surprising us with Marvel content. But yeah, it was fantastic to see this last week's episode. Fridays at I think noon they drop, and we will be watching the next episodes in a different room, but probably FaceTiming as we watch them. So
we may need to do a live stream of that, baby, because people I can't imagine that people aren't gonna like what we say when we're watching that show. I mean, we're just on conspiracy theory galore the entire show, pausing what the hell just happened, big time, big braining from Asa over there, big Ace, big braining over there with the theories. So we may need to do like an AJA like production thing where we just talk about the shows we're watching, because with Winter Soldier and the Falcon coming out, the Bad Batch is coming out, Loki's coming out. I mean, there's just stuff coming out for days. So pretty much sports and Marvel.
Yep.
Let's go, baby.
Spider-Man No Way Home coming out
Yeah,
this
they just
Christmas.
announced
Big
it. Yep.
news. Big news. Big
Wow,
news.
I know. I mean, Disney is handling all its products really well right now. So if you are not a Disney fan for some reason, if you're living under a rock, if you are just choose to not be a fan because everybody else is a fan, so you just want to take the other side, just admit defeat and watch every episode of WandaVision, watch every episode of the MCU, because there are some spoilers
that
and
good.
tie-ins from
Yeah.
like 8 years ago that you're like, oh, and that's storytelling. Why do we watch these movies? For the storytelling.
Yep.
Why do we even like get so connected to sports? Storytelling. Life is just a
Absolutely.
bunch of stories, and MCU has been paying off with that's the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been paying us off with like a lot of great content. So, oh yeah, for sure. All right. Did we all go? Did we all say the best of the weekend for ourselves?
I mean, I kind of like, full disclosure. I feel like that was honestly gonna be mine too. I mean, I just have a great time with you guys, like watching the show and everything. But I
I know.
mean, the next thing I had written down is gonna be also something that happened with you guys. So
For sure. No, sorry. Continue. We're neck deep into this now. As much as we enjoy talking about everything we've talked about so far, let's keep going. What else do you have on your
I'm
notepad
just
right there?
I'm just glad we pulled off the ice cream cake, baby. Made
Oh yeah.
had some
Oh,
wonderful help from my boy Ace with the frosting. I struggled with it. I couldn't do it. I'm first time making buttercream, first time making an ice cream cake, and I think we nailed it. Thanks for your help, and Johnny, thanks for the help in eating it. I know you enjoyed it for your birthday. So that was
Right.
my favorite thing of the weekend. Getting
Folks-
all that done, and
Folks, he's not just talking about an ice cream cake that is rectangular in shape. We're talking about we're talking about style as well as flavor. And this
Yep.
thing was constructed to look like the NBA Finals championship trophy. And what we can do is we can post that
We'll link
somewhere,
the
like
picture
maybe
next
on our
time.
Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
On our Twitter, I do have a picture of the behemoth, and it was fantastic to see come to life. What about you, Jay? What was the best thing that happened to you? Okay, well, we're gonna hear it was my birthday and I was spoiled, and
I mean,
and
we got a little-
and can you be original? Can you think of something? Oh, okay, he's
he's showing off the presents. He's coming.
We got some tips. Matthew with the big posters here. Displate is the manufacturer. So Displate, if you want to get a freaking little partnership with your boy, we're working on it. Episode 1, guys. This is episode 1. Displate, Lord Lizzie with the clipboard here. Stupendous. Kansas City, doing my work on that, taking the notes. Asa with a little bit of yak. You know, got that going. And then Big A-Dog, didn't even know they made this little Nike Apple Watch here for you, boy. You feel real spoiled here on the 27th birthday. So, yeah, just wanted to say I had a great birthday. Thank you both for making me feel so gosh darn special, because you guys do an amazing job of doing that for you, boy. I just love you guys so much, man. I know we're not going to get super mushy, but this is what the show's about. This is our show, Ace, Jay, and Andrew, and it's our relationship. It's our dynamic, and this is what it is, baby. So again,
Absolutely.
just thank you guys so
Love
much. I had a great weekend. You guys are the best, and yeah, that's my best of the weekend, because it doesn't get much better than that.
Well, we do know that we do know that people have lots of time on their hands, so we hope that you watch this full episode. We have more to come. It is page 1 of many, and it has been an absolute treasure trove of just hilariousness and fun that we were able to like put this together. We will be recording more episodes in the future. This was just the one of many. We appreciate you laughing, hanging out with us. Remember, you don't have to like and subscribe, but if you do, we'll love you a little bit more than the other viewers. And
Don't tell them that, though.
no bias though. Remember, the show has no bias.
if you learned anything from watching us for the last hour and 45 minutes, it's that we have no bias. We don't think we're better than game show hosts that we have no prior knowledge of. Some of our best of the work weekend, maybe someone else's worst. We understand that, but we do appreciate y'all being here. That is the end of our show. We appreciate you guys being here. And again, till next time, AJA Sports Nation, we appreciate y'all. Bye.
Later. Peace.